This is the incredible and shocking true story of how one of cinema's most celebrated icons lived a double life so dangerous and criminal that it would forever change how the world sees the relationship between celebrity, crime, and the dark underbelly of the entertainment industry, proving that sometimes the most convincing performances happen not on screen, but in the shadows of organized crime. March 15, 1972, the Mediterranean sun was setting over the port city of Marseille as 36-year-old Alain Delon arrived to begin filming The Outside Man, a crime thriller that would prove to be more prophetic than anyone could have imagined. What started as a routine location shoot in France's most notorious criminal stronghold would become the beginning of a 13-year journey into the heart of organized crime that would make his film roles look like child's play by comparison. Marseille in the early 1970s was controlled by the Union Corse, the powerful Corsican organized crime syndicate that had dominated French criminal activities since the end of World War II. Unlike the Italian-American Mafia or the Sicilian Cosa Nostra, the Union Corse operated with a sophistication and cultural integration that made them nearly invisible to law enforcement while controlling vast networks of drug trafficking, money laundering, and protection rackets throughout France and its former colonies. It was during his second week of filming that Alain first encountered François Marcantoni, a man whose legitimate businesses in construction and nightclub entertainment masked his role as one of Marseille's most powerful crime bosses. The meeting was arranged through seemingly innocent circumstances. Marcantoni owned several of the locations being used for the film, and his introduction to Alain was presented as a standard courtesy between a local businessman and a visiting celebrity. But Marcantoni had not sought out Alain for his autograph or a photograph. The crime boss had recognized something that very few people in legitimate industries had considered, that a celebrity of Alain's international stature could be an invaluable asset to criminal operations that required both legitimacy and mobility. Monsieur Delon, Marcantoni had said during their first private dinner at Le Miramar, one of Marseille's most exclusive restaurants. You travel the world, you meet important people, you have access to places and people that men like me can only dream of. And more importantly, no one suspects a movie star of being anything other than what he appears to be. What Marcantoni was proposing was not simply criminal activity, but a complete reimagining of how organized crime could operate in the modern world. Instead of relying solely on traditional methods of violence and intimidation, the Union Corse wanted to leverage celebrity status, international connections, and entertainment industry infrastructure to create criminal networks that were virtually undetectable. Alain's initial response was skeptical, but Marcantoni was prepared for resistance. Over the course of several meetings, he demonstrated the extent of the Union Corse's reach and sophistication. They controlled not just criminal activities, but legitimate businesses, political connections, and international trade networks that spanned from France to Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Americas. More compelling to Alain than the criminal opportunity was the intellectual challenge and the adrenaline rush of operating in a world where the stakes were life and death rather than box office receipts and critical reviews. After decades of playing dangerous characters on screen, the prospect of actually living that danger in real life held an irresistible appeal. The recruitment process took 6 months, during which Alain was gradually introduced to the Union Corse's operations and philosophy. He learned about their code of honor, their methods of operation, and their long-term strategic goals. Most importantly, he learned how his celebrity status could be weaponized for criminal purposes. By September 1972, Alain had accepted what Marcantoni called a consulting role with the organization. His official job remained acting, but his real work would involve using his international travel, his access to wealthy and powerful people, and his ability to move large amounts of money without suspicion to facilitate criminal operations. The first assignment was elegantly simple. Alain was traveling to Hong Kong for a film premiere and promotional tour. Hidden within his legitimate luggage were documents that needed to be delivered to Union Course associates in the city's thriving underworld. The transaction took place during what appeared to be a routine meeting with Hong Kong film distributors, but the real business involved establishing new heroin trafficking routes from Southeast Asia to France. The success of this initial operation led to increasingly sophisticated assignments. Alain's production company, which he had established to develop his own film projects, became a front for money laundering operations that cleaned millions of francs in drug profits through seemingly legitimate entertainment industry transactions. The beauty of the system was its invisibility. Film productions naturally involved large cash transactions, international money transfers, and complex financial arrangements that made it nearly impossible for authorities to distinguish between legitimate business expenses and criminal money laundering. Alain's contracts with international distributors, his payments to foreign locations and crew members, and his investments in various entertainment ventures provided perfect cover for moving criminal proceeds across international borders. But the Union Course's ambitions for their celebrity asset went far beyond money laundering. Alain's social connections and his access to high society events made him valuable for gathering intelligence on wealthy potential targets for extortion schemes. His relationships with other celebrities, politicians, and business leaders provided the organization with insider information that proved invaluable for planning criminal operations. One of the most sophisticated schemes involved Alain's connections in the international art world. His friendships with gallery owners, auction houses, and private collectors gave the Union Course access to information about high-value art transactions, security arrangements, and private collections. This intelligence was used to plan a series of art thefts and forgery operations that netted millions of francs while remaining undetected for years. The psychological toll of maintaining this double life was enormous. Alain was simultaneously one of France's most celebrated public figures and a key player in its most dangerous criminal organization. The skills that had made him a compelling actor, the ability to inhabit different characters, to project authenticity while concealing truth, to maintain emotional control under pressure, proved equally valuable in his criminal career. But the strain of constantly performing for two different audiences began to show in his legitimate work. Colleagues noted that he had become more secretive, more paranoid, and more prone to violent outbursts. His relationships with family and friends became strained as he struggled to compartmentalize his two lives. The Union Course, meanwhile, had grown dependent on their celebrity asset. Alain's involvement had opened up criminal opportunities that would have been impossible without his unique position and connections. His success had made him not just a valuable contributor to their operations, but an irreplaceable one. This dependency became dangerous when French law enforcement began investigating the Union Course's activities more aggressively in the early 1980s. The organization's traditional methods of avoiding detection, intimidation of witnesses, corruption of officials, and elimination of threats were less effective against modern investigative techniques and international cooperation between police agencies. Detective Inspector Jean-Claude Martinez of the National Police had been tracking Union Course activities for nearly a decade when he began to notice patterns in financial transactions that suggested the involvement of someone with extraordinary access to international banking and entertainment industry resources. The sophistication and scale of the money laundering operations indicated that the organization had access to legitimate business infrastructure far beyond anything they had traditionally possessed.
Martinez's investigation initially focused on entertainment industry executives and financial professionals who might be providing services to the criminal organization. But as he delved deeper into the financial records, one name began appearing with suspicious frequency in connection with transactions that coincided with known Union Course operations: Alain Delon. The realization that France's most celebrated actor might be involved in organized crime was so shocking that Martinez initially questioned his own analysis. But as more evidence accumulated, travel records that coincided with criminal activities, financial transactions that served no apparent legitimate purpose, and witness testimony that placed Alain in suspicious circumstances, the case became undeniable. The investigation reached a critical point in 1984 when a Union Course associate named Philippe Cayol was arrested on drug trafficking charges. Facing a lengthy prison sentence, Cayol agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for reduced charges. His testimony provided the first direct evidence of Alain's criminal activities. According to Cayol's statement, Alain had been present at high-level Union Course planning meetings, had personally overseen money laundering operations worth tens of millions of francs, and had used his celebrity status to provide cover for criminal activities ranging from drug trafficking to art theft. The most damaging was Cayol's claim that Alain had not been a reluctant participant or a victim of criminal coercion, but an enthusiastic and strategic contributor to the organization's operations.
The French authorities faced an unprecedented dilemma. Arresting and prosecuting Alain Delon would create an international scandal that would damage France's cultural reputation and its entertainment industry. But failing to pursue criminal charges against someone with such extensive involvement in organized crime would undermine the rule of law and send a message that celebrity status provided immunity from criminal prosecution. The solution came in the form of a secret agreement negotiated between Alain's legal team, government prosecutors, and high-ranking officials in the French Ministry of Justice. In exchange for Alain's complete withdrawal from all criminal activities and his cooperation in providing intelligence about Union Course operations, the charges against him would remain sealed and he would avoid prosecution. The agreement, finalized in January 1985, required Alain to cease all contact with Union Course members, to submit to periodic monitoring by French intelligence services, and to provide detailed information about the criminal organization's structure, methods, and ongoing operations. In return, his role in organized crime would remain classified, and he would be allowed to continue his legitimate acting career without public exposure of his criminal activities. The intelligence that Alain provided proved invaluable to French law enforcement's efforts to dismantle the Union Course. His insider knowledge of the organization's leadership, methods, and financial networks led to dozens of arrests and the seizure of millions of francs in criminal assets. The information he provided about international connections and operations also assisted law enforcement agencies in other countries in their efforts to combat organized crime. But the psychological cost of betraying his former criminal associates was enormous. Alain lived in constant fear of retaliation from Union Course members who might discover his cooperation with law enforcement. His personality became increasingly paranoid and reclusive, and his relationships with family and friends remained strained by the secrets he continued to carry. The public never learned about Alain's criminal career or his cooperation with law enforcement. Official records of the investigation and the immunity agreement were classified at the highest levels of government and remained sealed for decades. To the world, Alain Delon remained simply a celebrated actor whose career had included some memorable crime films. But within French law enforcement and intelligence circles, the case became legendary as an example of how celebrity status could be exploited for criminal purposes and how the entertainment industry's international infrastructure could provide perfect cover for organized crime operations. The investigation led to new protocols for monitoring the financial activities of high-profile individuals and increased cooperation between entertainment regulators and law enforcement agencies. The Union course never fully recovered from the intelligence losses caused by Alain's defection. The organization's leadership structure was decimated by arrests, their financial networks were disrupted by asset seizures, and their operational security was permanently compromised by the detailed information Alain had provided to authorities. Years later, as the sealed records from the investigation began to surface through Freedom of Information requests and declassification processes, the true extent of Alain's involvement in organized crime began to emerge. Documents revealed that his criminal activities had been far more extensive and sophisticated than even law enforcement had initially understood. The revelation has forced a complete re-examination of Alain Delon's legacy and career. Film critics and cultural historians have begun analyzing his crime-themed movies in light of his real criminal experience, finding new layers of authenticity and psychological complexity in performances that were previously seen as simply skilled acting. The story also raised broader questions about the relationship between celebrity culture and criminal activity, the vulnerability of the entertainment industry to organized crime infiltration, and the challenge of balancing public interest in prosecuting criminal activity against the cultural and economic interests served by protecting celebrity reputations. For law enforcement professionals, the case remains a valuable study in how modern organized crime has evolved to exploit legitimate industries and celebrity culture for criminal purposes. The methods developed by the Union course and perfected through their collaboration with Alain Delon have been copied by criminal organizations around the world. If this shocking revelation about the hidden criminal career of one of cinema's greatest legends has amazed you, make sure to subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to understand that the most dangerous criminals are often those who hide in plain sight behind legitimate success and cultural celebration. Tell us in the comments what you think about celebrities who use their status for criminal purposes, because sometimes the most convincing performances happen not on screen, but in the real world, where the stakes are life and death. The declassification of documents related to Alain's criminal activities has also revealed the sophisticated methods that modern organized crime uses to infiltrate and exploit legitimate industries. The Union course's strategy of recruiting celebrities and high-profile individuals has since been adopted by criminal organizations worldwide, leading to increased scrutiny of the entertainment industry's financial practices and international business relationships. Intelligence agencies in multiple countries have identified similar patterns of celebrity recruitment by organized crime groups, suggesting that Alain's case was not unique, but rather part of a broader trend toward the criminalization of celebrity culture. The methods pioneered in his recruitment and operational deployment have become a template for how criminal organizations can leverage fame, wealth, and social connections for illegal purposes. The psychological profile developed from Alain's case has also become a valuable tool for identifying other potential celebrity targets for criminal recruitment. Law enforcement psychologists have identified specific personality traits and career circumstances that make public figures particularly vulnerable to criminal exploitation, leading to the development of early warning systems and protective protocols for high-profile individuals. The financial investigation techniques developed during the Union course case have revolutionized how authorities track money laundering operations in the entertainment industry. The complex web of production companies, international distributions deals, and licensing arrangements that Alain used to clean criminal profits has become a case study in forensic accounting programs worldwide. Perhaps most significantly, the case has forced a re-examination of how society balances the public's right to know about criminal activities against the cultural and economic interests served by protecting celebrity reputations. The secret immunity agreement that allowed Alain to avoid prosecution while continuing his public career has become a controversial precedent that continues to influence how authorities handle celebrity criminal cases. Legal scholars have debated whether the decision to grant Alain immunity was justified by the intelligence value he provided, or whether it represented a dangerous precedent that placed celebrity status above the rule of law. The sealed nature of the agreement and the classified status of much of the evidence has made it difficult to fully evaluate the costs and benefits of this approach to celebrity justice. The Union Course case has also highlighted the international nature of modern organized crime and the challenges that national law enforcement agencies face in investigating criminal activities that span multiple countries and jurisdictions. Alain's ability to use his international travel and business relationships to facilitate criminal operations across borders demonstrated the need for enhanced cooperation between law enforcement agencies worldwide.